The job at hand is we are after clearing out our calving pen. We had a few bits and pieces of machinery and stuff stored in here, so we're after clearing that out. I need to give the floor a quick sweep. There's just bits of our gravel and stuff here on the floor. This comes in on the wheels of the tractors and stuff with frost. And then we're going to drop 2 pallets in here in the corner. I'm going to run off to my local man to get my bales of straw. We have a guy who stores the straw for us. Until we get a house of our own built, which we will. Rome wasn't built in a day, but eventually we'll have a house where we can store maybe 15, 20 bales. That'd be absolutely brilliant. But for now, we have a fella who does store the stuff for us. He goes off, gets the bales, and we collect them as we need it. And it isn't far away, so that works out 100% for us. It's hard to believe that we are fast approaching calving season. Now, one thing I do have to explain is I made a wee mistake this year. I didn't put enough fit in our collars when we put them on our cows. I was a bit sceptical of them and knew there was going to be a learning curve. This year we've had one of the best breeding seasons we've ever had, by a clear mile. Our conception rate, especially in the first serve, was just unbelievable. I'd normally expect there to be a certain rate of repeats, so I'd always keep that into my mind when I'd be AIing that there's going to be repeats, and all these animals we're serving, they won't all hold. But this year they did all hold, and that was a good and a bad thing, because good reason, yes, great to have them all hold, all in calf, brilliant. But I'm left with a lot of cows calving early, especially when we're tight for room with calves, and that's the reason why beforehand I didn't mind stretching them out from January right through till April. I didn't mind that at all, because it took the pressure of the calf houses, and I was all selling calves and making room as I went along. But this year will be interesting. Anyway, my wall, a lot of people ask about my wall. I have a prop up along here. If you remember from watching our channel last year, we had a storm which cracked our wall in half, and our wall was moving back and forth, in and out. And the idea was to pull it down. We do have insurance to cover this, but a small little wall like that, I nearly wasn't going to bother. It'd take no time at all to throw this section back up again if I wanted to. It's only to that pier there. It's only about a span of 18 foot and about 8 foot high. It's not the biggest wall, and I could build it myself very, very easily. I did secure it. I did put some steel up along there, along the door frame, and that helped an awful lot. But I do have another idea, and hence the reason I didn't touch it. Myself and a friend of mine have been just looking at it and chatting over, and it'd be very, very simple to put a loft up here, because we have an awful span of roof there. It's bigger than the camera probably shows. My idea was to run timbers across, right across it, put a floor on it, put a partition across the front of it here to stop any stuff from coming in that way, and just have a little door and have a storage area up there. 2-3 days work and you'd have it done. So yeah, that's maybe a little project we'll tackle into quite soon. These 2 first bales will be sitting here quite a while, and we do get the run that comes from the calving pen, comes down here, and there's a wee gully, you might have seen it there, underneath them pallets. All the lovely stuff that comes from underneath the cows when they're laying there, when they're calving, goes down there, and that's piped across here. You can probably see a little bit of a trench that's cemented over here, and it goes across and straight in to the tank there. So keeping them off the ground is important. It keeps the damp from coming up into the bales. So another little simple thing I do is I go around all the little hinges, like these little boys here. They get quite stiff after a while sitting over the summertime and after the shed being washed, so I put a little bit of grease in everything. It makes life a little bit easier when you're going in and out, and it doesn't take long to do. Alright, so that's the handles all greased up. That gate should be ready to rock. Now, we have cows here on this side here, and I haven't thrown any silage back to these cows and just in this corner because we have a broken barrier. You can see one of our, well, you can always tell the one that did it. But you can see here these 3 beams come right to the top, and we're missing one here. And here it is. She's only actually rotten on the corners where it sits kind of underneath the drinker and gets wet the whole time. So I have a beam there, and I think it may be long enough, and if it is, cut it to length and we stick it in there so we can push some silage and stop it from going into the slats. One of the handiest little things you can have in your toolkit is a little distance measure like this. Fairly inexpensive. I don't even know who makes this one. I got it a long time ago. Because if you go to pull a tape on your own, the tape will fall on the ground, and you know what's on the ground when you have cows in a shed. But when you use a little measuring thing like this, you can do it so quickly, and there's none of that crack. But everywhere you get it, in Aldi, Lidl, it makes no difference. Things like this, they're great. That's M for measure. I'll just point this down on the steel, and you can see the wee red dot? So you line that wee red dot over there on your beam. You can just about see it. I can see it there now in the daylight. If it's a bit darker, it's easier, but I'm still lucky enough I can see it. You put this guy against the other side, press M, and that's our measurement right there. So just transfer that onto a piece of timber and ready to cut. So these beams have been used for something else. We've got a little bit of an angle cut on them, so I want to just take that angle off first, get a straight edge. Alright, so there is our first 2 bales of many for the year. I shouldn't say the year, because we're coming to the end of 2024. So let's just say our first 2 bales of our calving season. That's probably a better way of putting it. But at least we have them home now, and that'll get us nicely started. So now that I have the trailer on, I'm going to actually do a couple of runs. I have to go and get our vitamin lick buckets for our cows. We're out of them here at the minute, so I'll go and get that done now this evening. I also want to drop a pin off that connects the main arm to the digger. It's just slightly too big, slightly. So I'm going to get them to machine it down for me. At least then we're going to put the digger together. We have all the bits and pieces we need. Right, so now we are in our calf house. And we have a few things to do on this. It's not been that terribly long till our first calf is in this shed. We have a lot of this stuff here. If we go in here and have a quick look. We had a few nice little leppy, let's say, Angus calves last year, which had a habit of jumping from one pen to the other, and they broke some of these, and things like that there are dangerous sticking out. So it's just a matter of bringing the welder down and just fixing all those. Fix the immediate ones. We don't have to go around every single thing, but as long as we get them all safe, that they're all linked back together again, that's all that matters. A lot of people do keep asking about this welder. It's a Mighty Mig Sealy 210. Does my job lovely. Someday I'd love to pick up a used miller. They're quite expensive new, and I don't think I'd ever really go for a new one, but if we get a second-hand miller, I'd like to pick one of those up down the line. But for the work I'm doing now at the minute, it's a great wee welder. It's worked 100%. It's on the cheaper side. It's still going to cost you a right few pound. I was using a stick welder before that. The one that I have, I just still use all the time for different jobs. But very hard when you're welding stuff like that there, which is very, very light, because it tends to burn right through it. With a MIG welder, that's the beauty I like so far about it, is the fact that you can weld stuff that's really light. Sheet metal work, stuff like that. Absolutely brilliant. But yeah, that's the one I use. It's grand. Look, there's loads of different brands out there. They all have their pros and cons. I haven't had any issues with it so far. Fingers crossed, touch wood. I don't have now after saying it. And the gas is nearly gone. Let's go and do a run maybe before Christmas. Okay, well that's not a good start. My shield is not working. An auto darkening shield. Right, I figured out what's wrong with it. The lights is on the shed, and the LED lights shine just right above my head, and it's just a little bit too bright, and it's picking it up and it's going into auto darkness. So now with the light off, it's a bit darker for you to see. My helmet is working. Visor. One of those names. It may not be perfect. This section here that was all bent and twisted, that's all welded now, and that'll keep that in place for another while. So that's what I'm going to continue on doing here. This one here is another bad one, and there's another bad one up here somewhere as well that I need to sort. The only downfall to the MIG welder doing this is the fact that when you're not cleaning everything, you really need to clean everything when you're MIG welding. To go around and start cleaning all these, I probably will have to bring down a grinder now with a little wire wheel on it and just rub it wherever I'm going to weld, because I notice it is struggling with the rust surface that's on that. A stick welder wouldn't have that issue, it would burn through it, but it would equally burn through the steel too. Now, today is the 27th of December, so it's quite a few days later. We were filming that around about the 21st, I think it was, and we had a surprise since that. So the night after we actually done the welding in them hutches, we had to put a calf into it. So we had a cow calved. The heifers are going to start giving a nod roar here because, well, I've got titles in front of them, but when they see me, they associate with me with food, and when they see me, they want food. And I shared it on the last video that we did here, where I mentioned we had a surprise in the calving pen, and you can see we do have straw in our calving pen. So we had a cow that calved 6 days before her time. She was carrying Belgian blue, and sometimes Belgian blue, they're intending to carry it a bit longer with the Belgian blue, but she didn't. She calved 6 days before her time. So on the end of that video, I had a smile and I said everything went fine, and I was very happy with that. But unfortunately, after that, things weren't fine. Things took a very nasty turn, a real nasty turn. So calf was fine, cow was fine. A little picture here we'll share that was took of the two of them when the calf was born. And because we had no other cows really calving anytime soon, we would put the calf in with the cow, let the calf suck the cow. We would bring her in then in the mornings and evenings and make her in the milking parlour, just to take the surplus milk out of her, because the calf wasn't fit to drink all the milk. She's a good cow, she's a really good elder, she's a lovely cow, a lovely natured animal. Definitely up there, one of the top 10 in the herd. So she had a nice easy calving, calved herself. Not a small calf, but certainly not a big calf. For a Belgian blue, definitely not a big calf. I stood over there in the corner and watched her from a distance, and she just popped the calf out of her really, really quickly. And I was just there basically to make sure the bag wasn't over the calf's head and the calf didn't suffocate, which everything was fine. But I noticed the morning that I went to milk her, the morning after, that would have been the 22nd, the morning of the 22nd, I noticed that she was a wee bit wobbly on her feet. So I put her up on the crush and I put some calcium into her, thinking that she was just a little bit of milk fever. But I noticed when I took her temperature, she had a temperature of 41, which was very, very high. So I rung the vet. I knew if I rung the vet at that time, I would get a vet fairly quickly, because normally they go off and do TB tests and stuff like that during the mornings. But if you ring early, you'll have a chance of getting one out to you before they do that. And I did. And our vet came out, he looked it over, and one thing as well I noticed was there was a slight little pant on her, which could be associated with pneumonia. It can be associated with several things, but pneumonia being one of them. So he looked her over and he said the same. I think she has a little bit of pneumonia, and that would explain the temperature and the bit of wobbling because of the temperature. So he treated her for that. She also had the calcium in her in case it was anything related to milk fever. And we put her back in here, and she was eating away. That's the bit of silage I had put beside her. I watched her throughout the day, and she didn't seem to be getting any worse. There was a little bit of a wobble there, but it wasn't too bad. And I thought just give the medicine time to work. So we didn't bring her in to milk her that evening, but I came out here and I wanted to take the calf away from her. I was afraid of her fall on top of the calf. All I was going to do was move the calf down here, this lower pen. Then I went off and I got a bucket of meal. And I want to give her a bucket of meal, so I went into the calving pen again. As I was standing there, I heard her give a very peculiar sound. It wasn't even a roar, it was more of a grunt. Her tongue just straight out, her tail went straight up in the air like she was just stretching. She just collapsed right down on top of me in that corner. She fell on top of my legs, and lucky enough I was in the corner. I didn't get the full brunt of it, but I was stuck underneath her. I pulled myself out from underneath her. I was lucky enough because we had the crush bar, the headpiece there, and I was able to open the headpiece and pull myself out through that, and got out. A bucket of meal was crushed underneath me, and I looked at her and she was stone dead. She must have had a heart attack and just dropped dead. I've never seen a cow just literally stand and fall over. Well, that wasn't a nice thing. That was the worst start I think anyone could ever have in a calving season. We're not just properly started in calving season, but we're pretty much ready to go now shortly. But yeah, couldn't ask for a worse thing than that. And that's just the way it happened. And on top of everything else that was going on, I really didn't need that to happen, but it did. And that's part of this job. Animal collection lorry, lucky enough, came that night to collect her. And he said to me the minute he seen her, he says, "You see how white her gums are on her tongue?" He said, "I'd say she had an internal bleed," and she bled out inside. And that's what caused her to have the heart attack. I thought I should share it with you because that's what we do. We share what happens, the goods and the bads. And that was that. I didn't show the cow laying there. I didn't think it was right. There's a lot of young people that watch the channel and I don't want to show dead animals. We've had a good run of it over the past while. The last cow we lost was 710 back about 3.5 years ago. Our luck run out with that one. Now, the one I didn't get to show you was our calf. Belgian blue bull calf, you can see plenty of energy. So as Dad would say, a nice little square calf. We're here for a few weeks, get plenty of milk into it, and it'll be a big strong calf before it leaves here. We don't keep any beef cattle here on our farm. We don't keep any bull cows, any continental cows. We sell all. We only keep our Frisian heifers. I'm not sure how this calf will be going yet. I have to ring a few friends of mine who do spy off me. Our Frisian bulls and that all go to local people that are raised just for beef. It's as simple as that. We still have a healthy calf, and was damn lucky that she didn't fall on top of it, because it could have very easily happened, and it probably would have meant a loss of a calf as well if that had happened. Anyway, moving on from that, Dad had a bit of rope. He tried on all of these things here, under these, to stop the cows simply from jumping through. I got these made in a local engineering place about 10 plus years ago. One little mistake was made was these were left with a kind of a wide gap the whole way down. They were supposed to be V'd, so that a calf couldn't jump through them. He could still put his head out but not jump through them. But they made them just straight down like this. Calves would just literally jump through them. So we put up these little cords here. They've done the job. It's just to deter the calf from wanting to jump through. But they do eat at the cords and stuff like that. So I said this year I'm going to come along and I'll just get wee bits of flat plate, anywhere I can find them around the scrap heap outside. And just weld it on across there, and I'll just stop them from jumping through. One thing you'll also notice, if you look at Ruby, so these animals never got ringworm, and normally the ringworm comes in our yearlings, but these didn't get it, whether it's the holly or not. We certainly, since we put it up, we never got it. But they've taken it when they came home. I can see little dots on some of our animals now starting to come. This heifer here as well. You see the ringworm starting to come in the ears and stuff. So I was displeased to see that as well, on top of all. But hopefully it'll not be too severe and it'll go away fairly quickly. I know when you go outside and you get a bit of ultraviolet light, just kill it off too. So I'm not too concerned about it, but just still would rather not see it at all. Wasn't sure how to end this video, but I want to just say a few things, because it is the last video of the year, and especially just with everything that's been on the last few weeks, I want to just keep it short, simple and sweet. So first of all, I want to start by thanking all the people who support us during this year. It was actually a goodish year. In farming terms, it actually wasn't a bad year. The channel itself has grown an awful lot in this year. This year was exceptionally good for the channel. As I say, I don't know why, but people continue to support us, and more new people continue to join in our journey, just showing our day-to-day life in the farm. That's all it is, just me raising my family on our small dairy farm here in Calving. People who bought merchandise for Christmas, I know we didn't advertise, I didn't want to. I wasn't even thinking of it. People still went out and they bought a lot of stuff, and thank you so much. Now, I do share a lot of stuff on social media about my private life. The reason why I chose to share the last day about talking about my dad and stuff, because I know there's a lot of other people who are going through the same. Whether it's recent, whether it's a couple of years ago, it makes no difference. For a lot of people, it's as raw as if it happened yesterday. And I get that from all the messages that we get. The similarities in how you deal with things are just so alike from person to person. I found the mornings particularly hard. I don't know what it is, getting up in the morning, coming up to the yard, mostly that time on my own, and just open the gates before you let the cows out to milk. I don't know, there's something about that time that's very difficult. Night time as well, going to bed. I kind of put it off. I leave it as late as possible till I'm exhausted and I'm just ready to sleep before I go to bed. So if you see me smiling, having the crack on the camera, I am genuinely having the crack, but I'm only able to do that at the moment because I allow for the other. That's as simple as the way I can say it to you. But we will soldier on, and we do so in honour of them people. We must, and they'd want us to do that. I do have a few things soon coming up. Maybe in the next video or so, we have a package over there in a black container of something cool we're going to try. I've never used one of them before, and I just decided, you know what, we'll give it a go, bit of crack. The T20 sitting over there, I have a wee bit of a change in mind of the T20. Now the digger sits behind, and a lot of people ask me, what's the story in the digger, Adrian? I just haven't had time. You couldn't make time for digger in the last 2 months. There was no time for it. But I have all the bits and pieces there, and I plan now in the next 2 weeks to spend an hour or two at it every so often, and I'll put the whole back of that digger back on, and we'll get that digger working. 2025 will no doubt throw plenty at us, good and bad. That's just the way things will be. We'll just get on with it. So thanks very much for watching our videos throughout the year. We do appreciate them. And from my family to your family, I hope you all have a good 2025. See you then.